I'd like to make the case to you this afternoon that you should own a precious metal prospect generator, and maybe it should be Silver Range. Quick word from our lawyers. Yeah. Maybe not so quick. If you're not convinced that there's a bright future ahead for precious metals, I'm unlikely to do so. But I think if you get the picture, you realize that, gold heads to trouble, and there's lots of trouble in this world. And there's strong demand for gold by central banks and institutional investors. Silver's tagging along nicely, and in addition, you've got this tremendous demand for photovoltaic cells. So bright days ahead for gold and silver prices, but you're not buying gold and silver, you're buying the companies, right? And I wonder, have you ever asked yourself, what are the odds? Now, most of the time, we invest in junior mining companies on a given drill program. The company's financing to drill a given target. You're investing, hoping they're going to make the big discovery. It's fairly well established by the majors that the odds of a given drill program making a significant discovery are worse than 300 to 1. Now, there's a smaller subset of companies that just deal with the properties. And here the odds are very different. In the southwest U.S. or in northern Canada where we work, the odds that a given mineral prospect has a mine on it are actually better than 80 to 1. If you don't believe me, check this out. These odds suggest to us some rules for prospect generator success. First up, it's critical the prospect generator have a large portfolio of projects to play those favorable prospect odds. Secondly, they got to get them optioned, in play, and drilled. Otherwise, they're just a land bank. An old CEO once told me that prospect generation is the get-rich-slow program, and I think there's some truth to that, insofar as it takes time to identify, acquire, explore, and get those projects optioned and in the hands of capable people to drill them. It's a long game. Along the way, your poor suffering shareholders have to be protected, and I think there's two ways of doing this: generate some revenue and minimize the burn rate to minimize the share dilution. Hopefully there's a mine hanging out in that portfolio. It's critical, I think, that every deal the prospect generator makes preserves as much upside as possible. And you can do this through retained interests, royalties, success fees, milestone payments. And if you find a really good one, maybe you spin it out. I would use Eagle Plain Resources Copper Canyon as an example of that. Okay, let's look at 26 odd prospect generators on the TSX and the Venture Exchange and see where Silver Range ranks. First off, portfolio size. Bigger is better. If you don't have a large number of projects, you can't play those odds. And Silver Range ranks fairly highly, except my bar didn't work. Anyway, let's look at deals. If you're not getting projects in other people's hands and getting them drilled, you're not going to find the mine. Now, this is where it's a bit of a long game. The longer you've been in business, you've developed that rich network, you've got your projects out there, they've been drilled. And so it's not surprising to see companies that have been in the business longer have got more deals out. But we think as a newcomer, Silver Range is doing fairly well. Again, apologies for that. Revenue. Preserving shareholder value, got to keep the dilution to a minimum. So we try and generate as much revenue as you can. In that regard, we think Silver Range is doing fairly well. And we're up near the top quarter. Unfortunately, a lot of this revenue we're generating is in the form of illiquid shares. Flip side, keep the G&A as low as possible. Here, Silver Range ranks below the bottom. In any event, we're down at the bottom end of the pack. We run lean and the money goes in the ground. Okay, what does Mr. Market think of us? Well, we're ranked in the middle of the pack. Share structure is critical, both along the way and in the end, for the poor retail shareholder. Here's ours. 56% of our shares are held by big companies, institutional investors, management, and directors. I hold 5% of this company. I bought it in the market through private placements or sweat equity. Prospect generators can focus on one commodity or a basket of commodities. We focus on high-grade gold and silver. We are looking for deposits that could host gold running better than 5 grams a ton gold or 400 grams a ton silver. And we want to see surface prospects that have the same style of mineralization for a reason I'll show you shortly. Now, we work right now in the southwest U.S., but we have a bunch of legacy projects in northern Canada. Here's our projects in the southwest U.S. Most are in Nevada. We're moving into Arizona. And you'll notice there's a strong cluster of projects along the Walker Lane. Okay, what's this prospect generation business all about? How are we generating these targets? I think you can appreciate that when you're looking for mineral deposits, there's a bit of a continuum depending on the degree of exposure. At one end, you have outcropping deposits. You've got economic mineralization over a mining width, lots of strike length. Surrounding it, you're going to have a strong alteration halo and evidence of geochemical leakage. It's very obvious. These are the sorts of things that geologists and prospectors discover when they move into a frontier area. There might be some of these left in the southwest U.S., but I wouldn't bet the farm on it. We think there is a very much larger class of subcropping deposits. These are drill targets. They can only be found with a drill. But what they do have is a strong alteration envelope at surface, geochemical leakage, and there's some economic mineralization brought up along a fault or the feather edge of the deposit. Many of the discoveries that have been made since the 1960s in Nevada have been precisely these. A little further along, you got a blind target. No economic mineralization at surface. Going to take a drill to find it, and all you're going to see at surface is an alteration halo and some geochemical leakage. And finally, you got conceptual targets. I think you can appreciate the risk increases dramatically as you move along this spectrum. Silver Range focuses on subcropping targets. We feel these provide the very best combination of risk and reward for our shareholders. If you don't believe me there are any of these out there, here's a couple of examples. This is from research done by Rockstone Research, and there's a couple of examples from Mexico. Here's Naica, 45 million tons of silver, lead, zinc. What do you see at surface? 75 meters of little pits and old workings. These are all over Nevada. Here's West Santa Eulalia, 40 meters of little pits at surface. At depth, 4 kilometers of mineralization that have been mined to great depth. To me, these examples suggest the size of the prize. These things are cryptic. They're not going to be found that easily. But if you do find one, the payoff could be great. So we call ourselves prospect generators. We're really drill target generators. And here's the tools in our toolbox. First off, we have 150 years of exploration data now in the southwest U.S., some great geological mapping, geophysical data, some geochemistry of dubious quality. You put it all together, and you can start to see patterns the old-timers could never see. Prospecting, however, is key for what we do. Due to a quirk in U.S. mining law, there is virtually no public domain analytical data. You're starting from ground zero, square one. So we do a lot of prospecting on open ground to find new targets. And when we find a target, we do a lot of prospecting around it to help define that great drill target. This is the Silicon deposit just north of Beatty. It's owned by AngloGold Ashanti. It's part of their 6 growing to 8 million ounce empire down there. This was the first deposit discovered that bought everybody in. Since 2015, they've drilled off 3.4 million ounces beneath this huge alteration zone. The key to the discovery here was Renaissance Gold applying shortwave spectroscopy to map the clay minerals in this alteration zone. What they did was they located zones beneath this huge cap where there was higher temperature, where there was evidence of upwelling epithermal mineralization. In these upflow zones is where the gold was deposited. Without that work, it would have been impossible to identify a gold deposit beneath this cap. That was the key thing. SWIR spectroscopy has become a fundamental tool in gold and silver exploration and in epithermal exploration, and we use it on a routine basis. Geochemistry has been applied in Nevada for 40 years now, and very successfully in some cases. The most successful example in my mind is the Long Canyon deposit mined by Newmont in eastern Nevada, a clear geochemical discovery. For geophysics, we like mag and radiometrics on an airborne platform, EM to define structure, and to see really deep and look at alteration, this ELF system. There have been a few significant subcropping discoveries in Nevada based on geophysics, most notably Newmont's Fortitude deposit near Winnemucca. Okay, these are the tools we have. Here's what we do with them. We generate a lot of targets. We stake what we can. We advance with limited funds, some of these to drill-ready status. We provide opportunities, not problems. At any stage of the process, we're ready to option a property to a partner. We try to get as many of our projects optioned as possible. And options in the end are converted to retained interest, royalties, success fees, milestone payments, whatever we can, and we might spin out a really good one. All right, let's look at a few of these options. Our Broden mining project is a project by Oxygen Capital in cooperation with the Ross River Dena First Nation. They're trying to restart the Faro silver lead zinc complex in the Yukon. In its heyday, Faro was the largest lead zinc silver producer in the Western world. When it shut down, there are 4 deposits left, and we've added our Keg deposit. 5 deposits, a 20-year mine life. Broden has done some PFS work, drilling, metallurgy. This thing is ready to go. The rate-limiting step is conveyance of land in the Vangorda area from the federal government to Broden. And that hinges on one signature from a downstream First Nation. When that is achieved, Silver Range will crystallize a 10% carried interest in this project. A mid-range estimate of the value of this project is $19 million. In Nevada, where I live, at Goldfield, Centerra is developing the Goldfield project. They just moved the highway. They're trying to mine 3 deposits here. What you're seeing is the alteration halo surrounding the Goldfield district. Goldfield in its heyday was the richest gold camp in North America. Between 1902 and 1958, it produced 4.3 million ounces at 18 grams, and there was some fantastically rich stuff produced in the early years. We've optioned this project to Green Gold. There's some experienced copper and gold explorers out of Australia. And we're exploring the eastern end of the belt. You can see the handle there on the frying pan, so to speak. There's numerous gold showings on the property, 80-odd underground workings, and a small mine. Down near Death Valley, our Tule Canyon project hosts very high-grade gold and even higher-grade silver. But it's in granite. Little structures, it's been overlooked by the big guys because nobody likes to look in granite. Green Gold, however, recognized the value here because there's been 4 small mining operations on this property since 1893. And they've optioned it, and we hope to see them drilling in the new year. Oops, sorry. Up in Nunavut, our South Kitikmeot Gold project covers the ground between, I don't think this is going to work, Sabina Gold and Silver's Back River project recently, and I'm sorry, it's B2 Gold now. B2 Gold purchased the Sabina's project. It's on the eastern end of the belt, and on the western end you have the Lupin Mine. Outlined in red is the Beachy Lake sediments. These are the host rocks for all the gold in that district. We have 7 properties in this project. It's been optioned to Viridis Mining. These projects comprise all the known significant gold showings between Back River and Lupin Mine. Viridis has earned a 51% by doing some drilling. In addition to our remaining interest, we have royalty and success fee. If you're trying to play developments up in the Back River area, Viridis would be a good bet. Here's a bunch of other active auctions we have, any one of which we hope could fill Silver Range's sales in the near term. Rush Gold's about to list on our Skylight project in the Royston Hills. This is a fully preserved, low sulfidation epithermal system complete with silica caps. It was identified by Newmont and Rimfire in the early 2000s at the very end of a big joint venture along the Walker Lane. This was their #1 target. They run out of money, they drilled around the edges of it, and they hit gold, but they never had money to test the center. Excalibur Metals is a private company under the King and Bay Group that hopes to go public very early in the new year. They have our Bell Helen project. Bell Helen covers the Bell Helen Silver Gold District east of Tonopah. The project includes all the producers in the district with the exception of the Merger Mine. We hope they list early in the new year. QLM Royston Hills is a private company, but they're mining at Goldfield Underground at the Lodestar Mine and at Pamlico. They also have a small mill near Mina. They've optioned our legal tender project, a high-grade silver prospect. They're drilling there this year. We won't see any shares, but we hope to see some cash. Silver 47 is a project run by Gary Thompson of Brixton Metals in association with the Crescat Group. They've optioned our Michelle project up in the Yukon. This was a high-grade silver, lead, zinc, and gallium prospect. They're fully vested. We're left with about 16% of the shares, royalty, and a success fee. We hope they go public next year. We can crystallize some value. GGL Resources is public, and they've optioned our East Gold Point project. This was a high-grade gold and silver producer, started in about the 1860s, and it produced into the early 1960s intermittently. There is extremely high-grade gold and silver underground. It's been mined down to a depth of 1,100 feet, and all of the workings and the mineralization trend onto our property. We have a 25% JV interest, royalty, and a success fee. So any one of these, or combination of them, could take off in the near term and fill our sales. So if you believe there's a bright future ahead for gold and silver, maybe you want to bet on a prospect generator to take advantage of those superior odds. If you do, I don't think you can beat the Southwest U.S. for a place to find a mine and put in production in jig time. If you buy all this, you might want to bet on Silver Range. We're on sale and we're financing. Thank you.